Hi. Hello and welcome back to Lessons from the Ashes, a Westeros Media podcast. Today I want to do something a bit different and talk about what is happening with the world, with ourselves, with the way people are feeling right now. Usually on this podcast, we tell stories about how people took themselves up and out of the ashes. And when I started this podcast, I started it from a place of having been really, really low, really down, really wondering, how am I going to get out of these ashes and rise up like a phoenix? It was my entire intent with this podcast to not only tell stories and have other people tell their stories of how they succeeded and got through things. I also really, really wanted to have it be a lifeline for people when they are in the ashes. I think that sometimes people get really, really excited about the whole, rising up from the ashes and being successful, that they forget that the hard, messy middle part is where the growth happens, and it's where, a lot of people don't talk about what happens there in that messy middle section of life. And for me, I have always found it a little bit tricky to be positive and excited about the world and life when there is actually like a lot of really hard things going on. And I find that hard to balance because I don't want to show up in my content or in my business really like sad and being like, oh my God, really things are hard. But most of the conversations I'm having personally with people that I know and love are that they are going through a really hard time. So I find that very hard to sometimes juggle. And I want this podcast to be a place where those two worlds can meet, right? I talk all the time about how you need to show up in your business with the energy of what you want to create. But also like life is life, right? Hard, scary things happen, and pretending that everything is perfect all the time does not serve any of us. So this podcast is definitely a place for that, for us to like really show those hard stories, to talk about the messy middle parts. And I want to be able to offer you this lifeline without you feeling like you have to pretend all the time and that everyone else is doing great and you're not. So I am recording this in November of 2023, and it's starting to be winter. I know technically it's still fall according to the calendar, but here in Canada, it is very much winter. It is cold. It gets dark at 5 p.m., which is a really hard time for people. Not getting enough sunlight is very, very difficult. Lots of people suffer from seasonal depression. I do too. Last year was very difficult for me. And I vowed to myself, about the same time I started this podcast actually, that I was going to do every single thing in my power to not go down into the darkness again over the winter. So I'm going to share a bit of my story and the things that have helped me in case you are in one of those, oh my God, everything's crumbling moments, and you need to hear about the messy middle and you need some ideas on how to survive this part so you can get to the beautiful Phoenix rising and have a glorious story to tell. So as I'm sure you have heard, I went through a divorce about 1.5 years, 2-ish years ago, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. We hear stories of people getting divorced and then going off and, living their best single life and all of these things. And for me, it wasn't that kind of story at all. It was very much a breaking down of everything that I thought that I wanted, everything I thought that I needed, and then trying to rediscover who I was and if I could take care of myself and if I could take care of my kids. It was like a very big, wild journey. I also, during this time, got sober. So 2 very, very big things and 2 completely new ways of learning how to live my life. So if you've ever gone through a sober journey, you know that the way you are when you're drinking and the way you live your life is very different from how you live your life when you're sober. So you kind of have to relearn a lot of things because your coping mechanisms or the way you approach things or how you talk to people was all colored by how you used to live your life, aka with the drinking. So Maybe for you, it's not drinking. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's just you want to not be reactionary anymore. However, you are changing. When you will go through a big life change, you have to relearn how to do so many things, and it can feel insanely overwhelming. It can feel like you have no clue how to do any of the things you used to do, and you're trying to learn all these new coping mechanisms, and it can just kind of feel like, this is way too much work. Why am I doing this? If you're at that place, I understand. And also, I want you to know that that is like the moment that makes or breaks you. And I know that's really hard to hear. But those moments of right when you are like at that, I don't think this is worth it stage, when you can actually get past that and go through to the daily grind work of over and over again practicing the things that help you, that's where the actual difference comes in, right? Like we see these like movies or people online where they like go from the darkness and then they come to like the beautiful thing at the end, and that like huge hard middle part is just like a montage of them like running and like thinking about like the Rocky thing, they're just like, it's like put into a cute montage instead of like showing, like, because nobody's going to watch a 10-year video of you just showing up every day and doing the hard stuff, right? But that is actually where the real change comes from, is those every single day little things. So last year when I was feeling very like, oh my gosh, this is too much. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can continue. I got to a very hard place, partly because I was really having a lot of pressure on myself. I felt like in my first year in my business, on its own, before I had other income, before I had a partner. It was like my first year solo in my business, having everything relying on just the business. And it was a lot of pressure. And I felt this immense pressure, not only from my business and my life, but from the people I was surrounding myself with. So my tip number one for you, if you are feeling like the ground is slipping out from under you, is look around at the people you are surrounding yourself with and try to, without judging yourself, analyze, are these people helping me or are they adding pressure that doesn't need to be there? And they may be good people and you may circle back to them. But if you are in a place where everything is too difficult and too hard and you're like trying to be survival and these people are making you feel like your survival isn't good enough, then you need to take a break from them. And I didn't do this soon enough. There was people in my life who I thought were the pinnacle of what I wanted. And it wasn't until I got a little space and got to be able to see that, oh, actually, that isn't how I want to live my life. Then I realized that the action I was taking me in the wrong direction, and that I could have just taken a lot of pressure off myself and really focused on what I actually want. This can be very, very hard and very emotional. So if it feels like I can't cut anyone out of my life, that's fair. Maybe for you, you have to just take a little more time, or maybe everyone in your life is super amazingly supportive. That might be the case. My tip number two for you is to find the baseline of where you're super, super stable. So think back to when you felt like you really had your shit together, and not like to the standard of the world, to the standard of you. Like, when did you feel good? When did you feel like, oh, like I woke up and I generally was like, yeah, okay, I can fucking do this. Like, when did you feel that? So maybe this wasn't a huge stretch of time. Maybe this is like a couple days a month that you feel this way. Maybe it's a season. What is it that makes you like, when is a time that you feel like, okay, I can really do this? Especially if, the recent events of the world are really bringing you down. Or if you just feel overwhelmed by like all the things that are happening. When did you feel like you could really handle things? And what were the things that you did every day during that time? So for me, I know that as soon as I fall off of my working out, cold plunging, some kind of meditation, breath work thing, I notice it like right away. I notice the change in my mood. I notice I'm more snappy with my kids. I notice that I think more negatively about things that on a day that I've done those things I feel like, oh, well, that's overcomeable. But on a day that I haven't done those self-care things, I feel like, wow, this is the worst thing that's ever happened and I don't think I can fix this. How we perceive things is a huge, huge amount of how we are able to handle the world. So don't like get down on yourself if you're like, oh, I knew I should have done that and I didn't, and then I got in a shitty mood, and then everything just felt crappy, and then I made bad decisions. And like, don't use this as a cycle to beat yourself up. Just try to look at like, what kind of daily things did I do when I was feeling my best, and can I implement those things? Making sure I do those things is very key for me, because it helps me stay on track. It helps me handle things that are actually super manageable. But if I haven't done those things, they seem like the end of the world. And you're not wrong or bad if the normal things of life feel like the end of the world. There is a lot going on right now. Like, I'm not going to get into political stuff, but there is a lot happening right now. And I know that there's people online who really try to make you feel like you're a terrible person if you don't like put out a statement about things you know nothing about. So please take the pressure off yourself in that regard. So my tip number 2 would be to find the things that help you feel better daily and stick to them, even if you don't feel like it. Even if the only thing you do that day is get up and do whatever it is. Maybe it's your walk, maybe it's getting some sunshine, maybe it's going outside. Even if that's the only thing you accomplish this day, it will help make tomorrow better. Like, think of this as all like money in the bank. Every time you do a workout, that's money in the bank for the future you to be able to like take from if you need it. Okay. My tip number 3 is to log the fuck off. People are not going to like this one, but there's a lot going on politically right now. There's a lot going on economically right now. There is a lot going on. I go on Instagram and I see people who are saying that they are like, a mindset person, but then they're also complaining about how it's impossible to feed their kids, or, there's just so much disconnect between like what people say they are and what they're complaining about. And also there are people going and being like, don't look away. This is a bone I have to pick. When there's hard things going on in the world, and there's this group of people who say, if you look away from the hard things, then you're a bad person, and I call bullshit on that. You must look away, because if all you're seeing is what's happening on the other side of the world, then you cannot take care of what is happening right here. And trust me, there are people here who need you more. They need your mental energy. They need you to focus on what's in front of you, not what's happening miles and miles away. And I'm not saying we ignore every political thing. What I'm saying is, if you are struggling, you are in no place to help anybody. You need to turn that shit off. You need to look away so that you can get your house in order. And then once your house is in order, then you can help other people. But I hate this weird thing where the world kind of expects every influencer to have a statement or a stance on political things, climate things, all sorts of things that they have no control over. And all these ill-informed people are just spewing things. Like, I don't give a fuck what my fitness influencer like what their position on one certain thing is, if I can't even handle my own life, right? I need people to understand that you need to be able to handle your own emotions first. If the news is causing you to not be able to get out of bed in the morning, then stop watching the fucking news. Okay? I'm not saying that we ignore the climate. I'm not saying we ignore politics. I'm not saying we don't fight for what we need. But if you are in survival mode, you are no shape for fighting, my dear. You need to get yourself help. You need to get yourself cared for, and then you can go help others. So if you're in survival mode, turn off the fucking news, unfollow everybody who triggers the fuck out of you, turn off your phone. I very often, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I delete the Instagram app for an entire weekend. I just do. My business, I've set it up so it can run, people can find information if they need it. I can take 2 days off. But honestly, being addicted to the stress of watching terrible things on the news or on Instagram or on TikTok, it is destroying your ability to be here for the people who need you. So stop it. With love. Please stop. Okay. My tip number 4 is find some shit that is fun and matters not. So I, in a previous podcast, talked about how me and Goose, my daughter, we nicknamed her Goose, we make garbage into art. And it's fun and it matters not at all. And we throw it back in the garbage when we're done. But what it gives us is a zero pressure way to have fun and explore something that we like doing. So I want you to do at least one thing per day that matters not at all. It doesn't matter. No one's life will be improved by it. Can you hear my cat running around like a psycho? Sorry. It matters not at all to anyone what happens. Like it doesn't matter. It won't change the world. It won't make the world worse or better. It just literally doesn't fucking matter, but you like doing it. And I want you to do some shit like that. Like maybe you dance in your kitchen. Maybe you do art. Maybe you paint your walls a weird color. Maybe you paint all the trim of all the windows in your house black, and who cares? You never post about it. It doesn't fucking matter. Have something for you that does not matter and does not need to be shown to anyone and does not need to be proclaimed and doesn't have to show you have a stance on anything. Okay? Just do something for fun that does not matter. Something literally just, hey, cool, nice. Doesn't matter. Because it will give you some freedom to just like be yourself and be in the moment. And that's what we want, is to want to be in the moment. Okay, my last tip, number 5, if you are struggling and you don't know how to get out of it, get yourself some nature and some sunshine, especially if you live in the place of the world where it gets very, very dark and there is no sunshine. If it gets dark before you eat supper where you live, go find your sunshine during the day. Just do it. Make yourself do it. Go on your lunch break, whatever you got to do. Get your actual skin in the sunshine, not looking through a window, in the actual nature, even if it's cold. Trust me, it will help a million, bajillion, gazillion times. Okay, those are my 5 tips. There are other things that I would definitely suggest you do, but start with this if you feel like you're in survival mode. I was in very, very dark times last year, and I'm not in this year because I've been doing these things. I am not a doctor. These are just things that I know how to do, and I want to help you too. Stay tuned to the show for more things like this. Also, there are going to be some really great things available for the whole Black Friday shenanigans, so keep an eye on that, because there are going to definitely be some things for those of you who are on the struggle bus. And if you're not on the struggle bus, awesome. Go help someone who is. Okay.